So my name is Sean Imler, and I'm a board member for UCM Church, where you are right now. And I've agreed to do this class tonight. I actually agreed to do it back in June, and I ended up having to switch with somebody because of a timing issue. So even though I've had months and months of preparation time, I haven't executed on any of that until just a couple of days ago. But that's okay, because that's normally how I operate. I wait until Spirit guides me to do something, and then I do it. So when I asked for the name of what this class was going to be, they gave me a name, and I fed it back to the calendar, and that's what it's been since. But what I was going to teach, I wasn't really sure. So the idea of containers and directions and other sacred things actually comes from my relationship to the sacred directions. I really enjoy a number of Native American practices, and many of those practices are rooted in what they would call the sacred tree. That sacred tree is what rises up through the center of the earth. The idea is that humanity lives underneath this tree, and when they're connected to the tree and the fruits that that tree brings, we are healthy. If we try to leave the tree, or we try to destroy the tree itself, we become disconnected from ourselves. As you look out into the world, you can kind of see how we're disconnected from ourselves in many ways. That is an indication that we're either destroying the tree, or we've moved away from the tree. So the idea is to come back to the tree, and the tree represents the sacred directions, north, south, east, west, in between, or what you might call center, above, what you might call Father Sky, and what is the planet that, or the turtle on whose back we are riding, which is Mother Earth. So, since this is a class on directions and containers, what we have right here actually is a container. I have created an altar right here. That altar is specific to the directions and the elements. Now, what we're going to be doing tonight is looking at what each of these directions are and the elements that you might connect to those directions. There is no actual rule in the universe that this is how things are, because every person creates their own universe. And so what I'm going to engage everybody into doing is to find what the directions mean to them, what attributes we might ascribe to each of those directions. If you want to put the element of fire in the south, that's great. If you want to put it in the east, that's great. There are no rules. There are only the rules that you find within yourself and how you adapt to the universe. And that's what I want to cultivate tonight. I like to announce myself to a space. So if you noticed, I was ringing a bell earlier. I was wakening my altar, but I want everybody to actually claim their space in this sacred space that we're creating. So if we could just go around and have everybody just claim their space by announcing their name. And we'll start here.
Hi, I'm Reverend Dottie Boone. Lori.
I'm Bee.
I'm Delia.
I'm Mel.
I'm Christine.
Veronica.
Bob.
Michael.
Mary.
Tom.
Mike.
Corky.
Thank you, everyone. So now we've just announced to the universe that this is where we are. And you might notice that when we go through life, we're often connected to many things simultaneously. Our thoughts are going everywhere. It's at the bank. It's at the market. It's at our mom's in Michigan. It's all over the place. So just notice that that's a very natural process. And see what you could do to bring yourself energetically here right now. So often I do this as an exercise where I lead somebody through a meditation, but let me just give you a couple of points. Imagine that everything that is on your mind right now has something to do with the universe around you. It might be in San Jose, it might be down in Gilroy, wherever it is. Imagine that you have an energetic cord connected to it, and imagine that just for this moment you are disconnecting that cord and bringing it back to your body. Take a moment just to assess where you have your energy, where you have your mind right now, and just call it back. And I trust that it's going to be there later, as all things are. But just for now, just take this moment and pull yourself back into your center. And if you have any emotions that are attached to anything out in the world right now, politics, anything else, disconnect from that right now. Pull it back to you. Let yourself feel yourself. And if you have any dreams or things that you've set as goals for yourself, even those, disconnect from them for a moment. Come back to you. Because there's always the observer, there's always the watcher, there's always the witness that sees our emotions, that sees our thoughts, that sees our memories, that sees our goals and fantasies in the future. It's not what we actually are. When we disconnect from those things, we become the witness. Be the witness for a moment. Just observe yourself. And as you're observing the self, I want to invite you to bring your awareness into the physical body itself. If you were to find your center from front to back, how would you identify the center of your body? Where is it located from front to back? Is it more toward your chest? Is it back toward the spine? Just see where it is. See if you can identify from front to back. Become aware of what's behind you. Become aware of what's in front of you. And where is that center point from front to back? And then assessing yourself from side to side, from right to left. Where is your center? Is it more toward the left or is it more toward the right? Imagine what you might have if you were holding a marble on a board and you were trying to bring that marble into center. Where would you find it? How would you bring it into balance? Could you get it to stop moving back and forth? Does your center move constantly? Or can you find a place of stillness? Whatever it is for you is just perfect. It's just a point of awareness. And then assessing above you and below you. If you were to find your center from above you and below you, where might you find it? Is it up toward the throat? Is it down toward the navel? Is it somewhere in the chest and the heart area? There is no right answer. There's only what is perfect for you. Above and below, where is your center? And as you assess, side to side, front to back, above, below, do you have different center points, or do they all converge? Just notice. Now, Some of you may be comfortable with standing and trying this out again to see where your center is. And some of you may choose not to, but I want to invite those of you that would like to stand and try this out. I'd like to invite you to do that. And those that don't feel comfortable standing and trying this out, don't worry about it. Just hang tight in your chair for a moment. Let's do the assessment again. Did your center shift when you stood up, or did it not? Just notice, front to back, where's that center point? And then notice inside the side. Now there's a little trick here. Now if you feel like your center is dead on, try putting your feet together and then see how your center feels. Often this makes people feel very wobbly. And the opposite of this, if you don't feel wobbly, or you feel too wobbly, you can spread your feet apart, about a foot apart, and then unlock your knees. So often when we stand up straight, we lock our knees. Just allow them to unlock. And you'll notice that it's a lot easier to stabilize the physical form and find your center when you unlock the knees and have the feet spread apart. It's a challenge to keep the feet together and keep the center. But it's also a really great exercise to find out when somebody that you've had some interaction with, either on the mental or emotional levels, have thrown you off a little bit, how do you come back into center? It has to be done in a homogeneous way, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. Often we have techniques of breathing through our emotions, or we can make different pictures in our minds mentally so that well, for instance, if somebody's affected you in a way, you could dress them up like a clown or put clown's makeup on them. When you diffuse your image of what that person represents in the emotional setting, it diffuses how your body feels about it. You might even feel a bit of laughter. Spiritually, you could say, I'm going to send this person love, and you could do that. But then what do you do about the physical form? Because it's all interconnected. So this is a way to bring yourself back to center, to find your center point. So just feel what that feels like, to go side to side, front to back, above and below. How do you find your center? And for those of you that are standing, I'd like you to notice the direction that you're facing right now. Now that you've brought your awareness into your body, how does the body respond to the direction that you're facing? Just close your eyes for a moment and just notice how it feels in front of you. Imagine that you're looking way out in the distance, hundreds of miles, as if you were holding your awareness out in the atmosphere, off of the surface of the planet. And what do you notice about the body? How does the body respond to having your awareness so far out from your body right now? And for those of you that are sitting, you can do the same thing. But now I'm going to ask everybody that is standing to turn 90 degrees clockwise. And if you're sitting, just bring your awareness 90 degrees clockwise. And for those of you that are standing, how does it feel out in front of you? If you were sending your consciousness miles and miles out in front of you, what do you notice? For those of you that are sitting, sending your consciousness out to the right of you, how does that feel? There's no correct answer here. There's just how you respond. Does it bring up any particular images? What we want to notice is, and this is the way that the mind works and the subconscious works. You might see images, you might hear something, you might just sense or feel something. A word may pop in your head. The image of somebody you know may come to you. There are no accidents. We may not understand everything that goes on in the mind, but there are no accidents. And when you're ready, invite those that are standing to turn another 90 degrees clockwise. And for those of you that are sitting, notice what's going on behind you or to the left of you, since Mike is facing a different direction. And again, notice. You may feel a difference in emotion. Different thoughts may arise. You may feel something in the body. A twinge, an ache, whatever it is. Just notice. Again, when you're ready, we turn another 90 degrees clockwise. And again, observe. Curiosity is an incredibly powerful state of being to be in. So I'm going to invite you to be curious. And for those of you that are sitting, just notice what's happening. Mike in front of you and others to your left. When you're ready, those that are standing can sit down. And feel free to, there's a handout of the 4 directions. If you feel inclined, write down any notes that you may have noticed from each of those directions for yourself. And if anybody has any observations, I would love to hear from you, since I like classes to be more collaborative. So if there's anything that you noticed, any thing that arose for you, I would love to hear about it. If anybody wants to share.
What direction is this? Where are we?
This is north.
This is north.
Yeah.
Bless you. That sounded different. Love you.
Oh.
But it's not what I'm used to hearing.
Pen and pencil?
I will take pencil. Thank you.
Sean, one of the things I was surprised at is that the closeness of the walls to me, I mean, I suppose it's logical, but it took me longer to move beyond the walls if they were closer, physically closer, you know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
And I hadn't anticipated, I mean, I thought I could be in my head enough that that didn't matter, but it was very hard when I was right next to the bookcase not to,
Would you consider yourself to be a very empathic person?
a very
Empathic?
empathic. Yeah, I think I'm pretty empathic, don't you? What else can you say, right? No, I think I am.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay.
normally people that are incredibly empathic are not just empathic to other people biologically, because we do have mirror neurons in us that connect to other people, but we can also feel density very easily. Our energetic body, which surrounds us, when we are used to extending that body out a lot, and people do so when they're empathic, they do that unconsciously a lot, which means they're incredibly sensitive to inanimate objects or just the density of objects being around us. A lot of those people don't like to be in crowds simply because there are so many bodies around them. They need more space. So that might be why...
It could have been why, because this was very hard not to just... my mind said, just open your eyes and read the titles. This will be over in a minute, you know?
Right.
But I was surprised that
Title?
that was so clear.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything they wanted to share?
Yeah, it was, thyroid. When I was looking that way, I went all the way up to Santa Rosa and was feeling like this whole area here. And I'm starting to think, I learned fire in the north, water in the west, earth in the north and fire in the south and air in the east. And I was thinking I'm going to learn maybe some ways to look at that. I know there's different systems, different parts of the world look at it differently. So when I hit Santa Rosa, I thought it was real interesting. When I look this way and that way, I saw these books I read for the last 40 years. I didn't get past the bookcases. And but I did feel Santa Rosa up there, and I feel part of the energy with it.
I also used that system for a very long time. In Western thought, theosophy, and astrology, they use that elemental arrangement. You have air in the east, earth in the north, water in the west, and fire in the south. It's incredibly common. The thing that's interesting is that the Native Americans, it's also very common to rotate those 90 degrees counterclockwise. So if you stick earth in the west, and then put air in the north, and put water in the south, and put fire in the east, that's another way of looking at things. Fire, related to the sun, rises in the east. And so there's a natural affinity to having it that way. Water is very fluid, and the area of the south usually represents youth, and youth is very fluid and flexible and likes to do things. The earth in the west is, if it's related to the ancestors, and we are all sharing our DNA through our bones, and our bones are of the earth, you might put that in the west. And then, but you could easily rotate it again.
It's a very unusual arrangement.
I was looking at another system, just recently actually, that puts fire in the north, which you could say, okay, if we put the elders in the north, and we put wisdom in the north, and we put teachings and community in the north, I could see why you might put fire in the north, because it has the spark of spirit within it. It's the connectivity between all human beings, and so I can understand that. It seems totally reasonable. That's why it's important to find the system that really works for you and to experiment with it. So just recently, I was on a vision quest, and I was on a hillside, and it just so happened that geographically where I was placed, perfectly to my south was a large body of water. It was the Watsonville Slough. And on the hillside, I was sitting in front of a valley that was to my west. And that valley rose up on the other side and was a strawberry field on the other side of this large chasm that I was looking out over. And it felt very earthy to me, because I had strawberries, and one day I was actually looking at the people picking the strawberries. When I was looking at the north, I was looking up into the sky on the side of this hillside, and it was only a few yards that I could see, and then there was just nothing but this expanse of sky, so that was air to me. And then I had the sun rising in the east, and that felt like, oh, fire. I feel the fire coming up right there. So it actually to me, it tells me that we can actually rearrange things within ourselves to accommodate different situations. Nothing is really fixed. We're not fixed on planet Earth. Us and the sun are being catapulted through this galaxy. I don't remember what speed it is, but it's not slow, let's just say that. We're actually moving really fast through this galaxy, and on top of that, we're also revolving around the Earth itself, and we're doing that at another rate, and it's actually really fast. I never remember my science figures, but it's fast. If we were trying to hang on to something, we wouldn't be able to. So that means that it's actually really good to find flexibility within ourselves so that we can adapt to any situation. What we can do is just find our center, because from the center, we're going to just rotate, and we're going to find what feels right for us, and no matter what space that we are in. And when we create a sacred container, you could orient yourself north, south, east, west in any way that feels perfect for you in that moment. The feng shui system, they have two ways of looking at that system. Either you go by magnetic north and you set up your directions that way, or you find where the front door is and you make that your north. And they say both systems work equally well. Now, how could that be? The north is not fixed. It really is only in relation to you and how you want to orient it. And once you figure that out for yourself, you could use any system that you want. And so that's the point that I'm creating, is that when you find your center, your directions are everywhere, and whatever you want to ascribe to those directions. Now note, I did give you guys 2 sheets of paper that has a list of attributes of the different directions. And the thing that's interesting is no matter what colors you ascribe to different directions, no matter what elements you ascribe to those directions, there are particular qualities that seem to have some root in those directions. Now, it's probably because we're very oriented to the sun rising in the east and setting in the west. It's also that we have a particular climate and a particular relationship to the stars. When you go to the southern hemisphere, they don't look at the North Star. You can't be guided by a North Star that you can't see. They are guided by the Southern Cross. They know where that is in the sky the same way that we know where Polaris is in our sky. So they have a different orientation. The orientation to things spinning is even different, because things spin naturally differently on the northern hemisphere than they do in the southern hemisphere. If you were going to flush a toilet, the water literally spins the opposite direction from the 2 hemispheres. So it's interesting that I've always thought that when you want to send out energy, you would spiral one direction, and when you want to draw in energy, you would spiral another direction. But again, it's dependent upon where you grew up, where your spiritual roots are, because they're going to give you the exact opposite answer in the southern hemisphere than they are in the northern hemisphere. And what that tells me is that it has really nothing to do with the hemispheres. It has a lot to do with what we've observed in nature, and we are a part of nature, but it also has a lot to do with our intention. Our intention sets what we create for ourselves. As you know, there are 2 ways to live life. You can either let life happen to you, or you can make life happen. You can either live with intention, or you can just set yourself afloat on the river and let yourself go and see what happens. And both are equally valid. There are people that really don't like rules, and they don't like to have a model of how things should go. They just want to experience, and they throw themselves out into the world to just let whatever happens happen. But when we're working with refined and subtle energies, refined energies of the senses, refined energies or subtle energies in the universe, we have to have some intention. Because if we want to be just bombarded with stuff, that can happen very easily. But we don't really want to live that way. We want to have some choice. That's why we've been given free will. So when you think about sending energy out or receiving energy, do you want to spiral it this way, or do you want to spiral it this way? What works best for you? So we're going to do some exercises, and we're going to get in touch with this, because it's really important that we embody the awareness of what is happening within our system. That's the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual system. So the way that I like to do things is in a shamanic way. In shamanism, we use a rattle or a drum. And the reason why we do that is because the left brain, the left hemisphere of the brain, is very structured, it's very analytical. We want to get it out of the way. In this case, it's not really useful for us. So if we give it a repetitive sound or something to focus on, we can actually bring our awareness into the right hemisphere of the brain. This is the right hemisphere that has everything to do with now, this moment, being totally connected with self and being totally connected with everything around us. That's the part that thinks outside the box. That's the part that gives us new creative ideas, and that's where we want to be connected. So to get us in touch with these things that I'm talking about, these directions and these other sacred things like spinning, I'm going to lead us through a couple of exercises, and I'm just going to drum or use my Tibetan bowl as we would in a shamanic practice. And the first thing I'd like to focus on is the north. Now, aside from the qualities that are mentioned on the piece of paper that I've handed out to you, because we actually have magnetite in our brains, all animals have some relationship to the north. It's how birds are able to migrate, butterflies are able to migrate, frogs know where they are. It's because we have minerals in the pineal gland, and sometimes it's very difficult for us to actually connect with where north is. And I was thinking about doing this exercise tonight, but I don't know if I'm going to do it. It feels like the room is a little tight and there's a lot of people here. What I was thinking about doing was blindfolding everyone and spinning you and having you try and find north once you've found your center. But just because I feel like space is a little limited, what I'm going to ask you to do is just to close your eyes, and north is definitely that way. And so I want you to just connect with how north feels, and I want you to notice what colors might come up for you. What sounds might come up for you? What emotions and other intellectual qualities might come up for you? How does the body feel connected to north? And then when you are capturing these things, I want you to write them down on your piece of paper that has the 4 directions on it. Start to catalog the qualities that you're noticing. And I'll remind you, as we go along, some of those qualities to venture into, to look for. And so first, what color might come up for you when you are connecting to the north? Just observe. Again, that state of curiosity, the beginner's mind has lots of space for information and new experiences in it. So even if you feel like you may know what that color would be from the past, allow something new to come in, just in case it wants to. And if there were a sound in the north, what sound might that be? represented a particular stage of human development in age or in wisdom, what might the North represent? And of the four elements, earth, air, fire, and water, what element would you ascribe to the North? And if there were a particular tree or plant that you would associate with the North, what would it be? And if there were an animal that you would associate with the North, what animal might that be? And if there were a body part associated with the North, what body part might that be? And if there were a particular time of day associated with the North, what time of day would that be? Just be curious. Okay. So now, I'm going to invite you to create a large orb of blue light above your head. And we're going to clear our relationship to the North out of the body for a moment. Imagine that it's going down through the body, all the way down, 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 all the way to the feet and out the bottom of the feet, until North is now cleared out of your system. And now you're fresh, back in your center. And now, we're going to bring our attention to the east. And so, this is the area behind you. If you are sitting facing me. I'll do my best to remember all the attributes that we chose. And if you notice that I've forgotten something that's important to you, go ahead and write it down. What color would you associate with the east? Just allow your awareness to extend into the east. Allow it to speak to you, being curious about what it has to show. And if the east had a sound, what sound would that be? And if the east had an emotion, what emotion would that be? And if the east had an intellectual concept, what concept would that be? And what season of the year would the east represent to you? might you associate with the East? What season of the year would you associate with the East? And what animal might present itself to you in the East? And what phase of growth from birth to death might reside in the East? And what element feels like it lives in the East? And what plant or tree might exist in the East? And if there are any other attributes, write them down. And when you're ready, I'm going to invite you to create that blue orb above you again and allow it to drop down through the body, clearing the East out of your system until the orb comes out the bottom of your feet. And bring yourself back to center. Now we're going to bring our attention to the south. Start to bring your awareness to the left of you, for those that are sitting facing me. Extend your awareness out, out, out into the south. Allow the south to speak to you, to show you its wisdom. What color presents itself to you from the south? And if the south had a sound, what sound would it be? And if the sound had an emotion, what emotion might that be? And if the sound held an intellectual concept, what concept would that be? And what phase of human growth from birth to death presents itself to you from the south? And what season presents itself to you from the south? And what time of day does the south represent to you? what animal might present itself to you from the south? And what plant or tree comes to you from the south? And what season comes from the south? And what body part presents itself in the south? And if the south were to give you a message, what message might that be? And is there anything else from the south that wants to present itself? And again, create that blue orb above you. Allow it to move down through the body, clearing out the energy of the south. Allow yourself to come back into center. Now we're going to bring our attention to the west. So for those of you that are facing me directly in front of you, allow your awareness to extend outward into the west. Be open to receiving information by being curious. What color presents itself to you from the west? And if the west had a sound, what sound might that be? And if the west had a particular emotion, what emotion might that be? And if the west held an intellectual concept, what concept might that be? And what animal might present itself to you from the west? And what tree or plant might come to you from the west? And what season of the year wants to present itself to you from the west? And what time of day might it be in the west? What body part might you associate with the west? Does the West hold any message for you? What phase of human growth is in the West? And is there anything else that the West wants to present to you? Just notice. Okay, again, allow that blue orb to move down through the body, clearing out the relationship to the West, allowing you to come back into center, where you can observe these four directions. Now, there's two more directions that are very important, and that is above and below. Since we were riding on the back of Mother Earth, Father Sky would be above us. But what does that mean to us essentially? Now, many cultures associated the sun with the element of the Father and Mother Earth as the mother. However, there are places where that differs. Some people associate the moon with the mother and the sun with the father energy, and the earth is just the spirit on whose back we're riding. There are cultures that actually reverse the sun and the moon, so that the sun is actually the mother, and the moon is the father. So there are no hard fixed rules here. So what I'm going to invite you to do is to extend your awareness upward. This falls outside of intellectual concepts, emotions, and other things only if you want it to. But if it wants to present something to you, I invite you to be open to what does above mean? What does it mean to extend our consciousness out into the cosmos? And what information would the cosmos hold for you? What does the concept of the sky hold for you? What does the concept of the Father hold for you? Is it the sun? Is it something greater than the sun? What is the interrelationship between all of the bodies that exist out beyond Earth mean to us? Be open, be curious for whatever message wants to come in for you right now. might still be coming in. Take a moment to write something down. And rather than clearing this energy out, like we've done with the directions, I actually want you to notice the contrast as we move down into Mother Earth. So we're going to do this again, but I want you to see the opposites. I want you to notice if there's any contrary information, any contrary concepts that are holding themselves in balance for you. Just notice that. As you extend your awareness downward into the earth, what information, what knowledge, what feeling comes from below you? And how may it differ from what comes from above? How do they complement or contrast each other? Receive any last information that might be coming in, and take any notes. And we're going to take a break, allow everybody to stretch and get their energy flowing again. And